I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
It's the things that make you look at what you thought you saw in a different light. The hole in the Pentagon being too small for a plane. The lawn isn't mussed up. The government's not showing the plane hitting when many cameras photographed it.
There's nothing to fear except God. God. God.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask?
It's too big.
Back and to the left, 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 back and to the left.
Hello, everyone. Here I am with Austin once again, and we are going to have another conversation for some reason. I'm not in the best mood because the Cubs are really hurting me in a lot of ways, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit angry about the results of the Cubs season so far, at least the last week. But anyway, we decided, because we were kind of trying to figure out what the next episodes will be, and we figured out that there's a Spike Lee movie coming out kind of soon, so we're probably going to do an episode of that and then maybe some other stuff. But before then, it was kind of like an open question on what would even be like a topic to do. And I feel like, just off of the top of my head, connected to Eddington, not even really that connected to Eddington, but like, what's a movie that like is tangentially like could have anything to do with it? Like, what's like another film just to randomly bring up? And yeah, I decided to tell Austin to watch Bulworth, a Warren Beatty movie, which is wild, and also one of the great political satires ever made. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Bulworth.
Bulworth. J. Billington Bulworth.
Yeah, what did you think, Austin, of Bulworth, which is it's a movie with a lot going on, which I think it bombed at the box office and everyone hated it when it came out.
Yeah, I loved it, but I can definitely see that. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's very funny, obviously, but it's almost kind of done in like a straight tone, and borderline kind of is like a musical. I was thinking like somebody should make this into a musical on like Broadway or something. I feel like, especially now, it'd be great. And yeah, I think I just put like on my Letterboxd review, like, watch this, especially now. It just feels so well, what was this, 98, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
And it's only gonna probably just keep aging better and better.
Well, yeah, because the movie, there's a very key aspect to this movie that is just so like prescient regarding the Trump era, and it really is like a political satire. But basically, the plot is about a politician who like kind of has a nervous breakdown, and he starts just like flipping out in public and saying insane shit. And as he's saying insane shit, he becomes like a transcendent political force, because he's like saying things that you're not supposed to say, but even more than that, he's admitting that he's part of the corruption of the system that's eating away America and eating away at low income people and black people and all. The movie's very direct, talks about race and stuff, and I could see how people would see this and have a problem with a movie from the 90s being really hilarious, but also like very flagrant in talking about race. So one of the things Bulworth does is, as he's having this mental breakdown, he starts rapping, and it's it's pretty hilarious though, because it's like a old white dude, and he's just like his aides are like they're like, he's rhyming now. It was like the line. They're just like, no, he's doing other shit. But so essentially the movie starts,
Yeah,
and
he's like just crying watching like ad reruns that he's been taping for his upcoming Senate run, or I think for re-election.
yeah,
And
and
he's
it's
like
always
he's
that same
very
sentence.
comedically crying. It looks so ridiculous. He's not
Yeah.
like he's like
And this is Warren Beatty. He's the lead, and he's the director of the movie too, and he plays Bulworth.
and he is, I guess, you find out that he's suicidal because he hires a hitman to
Yeah,
kill him.
I literally, the first time I watched the movie, I didn't even like realize that he did that, and because the first, there's a couple of things about this movie. It has a very insane and super deceptive, transcendent ending, which is very like hard to like get a read on the first time you see it. And then the first like 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, it gives you a lot of information in a way that it's like almost like deceptive. Like this is the third time I've seen it, and each time that opening like 5 to 10 minutes is like sharper and sharper, like the way it's cut together and the way it kind of is like, yeah, he has like a hitman. He hires a hitman to kill him.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like, it seems to me very like I mean, obviously this is a great comparison for the podcast, like JFK.
Well, no, I was gonna bring that up too, because it kind of is doing the beginning of Nixon. Like
Yeah.
the fact that it's raining, and then you see like the White House, and
Oh.
then it like zooms in, and then it's him like in his office, like in the dark, just like Nixon in the beginning of Nixon. And then when he's getting off the plane, the fucking guy who's on the intercom is literally a guy that worked on Nixon. He was the guy that's like, and the president is it's like a guy with that booming like
Yeah.
voice. It's the same guy, like, because you would know if you really are like, huh, this is kind of like Nixon. And then he's literally Jay Bulworth is like getting off the plane, and it's like the guy who says that Watergate is bringing down Nixon and Nixon.
Wow, that went over my head.
No, I had no idea until this viewing. It's just a
Oh.
testament. It's literally a testament to how much better this movie gets every viewing. Because the first viewing, I was like, because the reason I watched this movie is because of Albert Serra. And Albert Serra, I think, more or less said that this movie kind of predicted Trump. And he also
Huh.
said it's a movie that nobody liked at the time, but it's like a masterpiece. And
Albert Serra likes it. No shit.
yeah, isn't that hilarious? Because he loves picking stuff that like nobody. He's very hard to anticipate, Albert Serra. I mean, it's not necessarily a surprise that Warren Beatty could make a movie this great, because he made Reds, which I kind of wanted to rewatch before this, but it's so long I haven't rewatched it since I first saw it. But I saw it the last couple of years. Reds is one of the greatest one of the greatest historical dramas ever made. It's a towering masterpiece. I mean, I think it's up for debate which one of these movies is better. But Bulworth to me is a masterpiece. It's like one
Hmm.
of the greatest political satires, but it's a lot, right? I wouldn't necessarily say to someone, watch this, unless I know what kind of sense of humor they have, like what kind of interest they have, as far as like, a movie that's going to just be very hard to take. Like it's very, because it's all about a guy having a breakdown, and you're supposed to kind of just like it, because if you take it just as like a comedy, you might miss like other comments. But
Yeah.
Reds is like an epic romance between Warren Beatty and Diane Keaton, and it's about like a journalist who was like, I think he ended up being buried at the Kremlin or something like that. He was like a journalist that covered the Russian Revolution, and
Okay, yeah.
It's all essentially about the Red Decade, more or less. I guess the Red Decade. So there's a book called the Red Decade, I believe, which I believe had to do with the 20s. But in America, we had a lot of um, communists ourselves before World War I and World War II, and they kind of got basically systematically kicked out and marginalized. During the lead up to like World War
Fuck them.
One, there was a lot of like lynchings and shit like that, even
Yeah.
before World War One. So the way I would explain Reds is like it's almost like the movie that Oppenheimer wishes it was. Like
Oh,
when Oppenheimer features like
that's good.
Oppenheimer like cheating on his wife and like having all these having all these baddies he's talking about class relations and seizing the means of production with. That's like Reds, like like Reds is like because what another person I heard talking about Reds said is that the people of that movie, the characters of that time, like the real people, they had similar lives to like the Hollywood elite. John Reed is like I guess is the name of the real guy, a famous journalist, communist journalist, and he's basically just like he's like at a party talking about seizing the means of production, and like Diane Keaton is like, I love that. So then they get together, but then they're always like in and out of dating each other, and apparently that's actually how it was in the early communist, like
Wow.
in the early kind of social the early milieu for
Yeah.
communism in America was there was definitely an open belief that it's a feature of capitalism to be in a relationship where you don't cheat. And so they believe that you just sleep around. Like they're literally saying this in Reds. They're like saying that word for word. And then fucking Jack Nicholson is in it. Gene Hackman is in it. It has a crazy cast. Yeah, Paul Sorvino, which is so funny. Paul Sorvino shows up in Bulworth playing like the guy that Luigi shot in the head, and that fucking he's playing an insurance like guy, like one of the chief like kind of like ghouls of the movie.
Yeah, I was just like,
Bulworth
was
is
Paul
like an
Sorvino in
insurance
every
guy.
movie in the '90s? Like, what the fuck? Like,
Because I didn't even catch that the first time or two I watched this movie, but seeing it this time, I'm like, damn, he's literally an insurance guy. Because then I think
yeah,
because doesn't he buy all the insurance off of him too? Like, so
yeah.
he's getting money from him to say certain things, and essentially, the movie is very openly saying this is like political corruption. Something that's basically as common as drinking water in Washington D.C. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody is accepting money from insurance companies on what to say and what not to say. So then he turns around, he says to Paul Sorvino, "I'm going to get all this life insurance and then give it to like I think he says give it to his daughter or something, right?"
Yeah.
And he wants to get like $10 million in life insurance. So the plan is that he's depressed and he tries to get a hitman to kill him, and then he's gonna cash all this life insurance for his daughter. So he goes to California, and at like what was the very first like spaz out? It was at the church, right? He goes to a black
Yeah.
church, and
And
then
he's
he says,
basically just like, what, you gonna fucking vote Republican? Like, he just tells him, like, yeah, we don't give a shit about your, like, we just need your vote, basically, is the.
yeah. So he says he gets up there and he says because I think he starts saying his speech. He starts saying that we're at the beginning of a new millennium or something,
Yeah.
a new
That's
American
his
century.
fucking tagline. And he's like,
The
and,
thing,
uh, yeah, and he just like crumbles up his paper and then is just very, very off the cuff.
no, and then he's like, "Yeah, any questions?" And then all these people in the black church start being like, "Yeah, you didn't do shit for us, and you said you were." And he's like, "Well, frankly, me and all my all
He's
my
like,
fellow politicians."
you guys didn't give you that much money, did you?
Yeah, and I think it's in that first scene where he says, and he keeps bringing this up, and this is literally word for word what Trump did in the 2016 Republican primaries specifically, is that he said, I take money from anybody, and when they give me money, I do what they say or vice versa. If I give them money, they do what I say. I think that's like what Trump
Right.
was saying. But Bulworth in this movie from the 90s is saying, I think he has a line where he says, your ears would bend back if you knew the
Oh
kind of
yeah.
things I did for the insurance company.
But what I like is that there's a lot of mixed reaction in the crowd.
Yeah, because
And
people are
obviously the
outraged.
people that like dig it are way, I mean, they kind of become bigger characters by the end of the film, but yeah, some people are just like, "Oh my god. What is this?" And other people are like, "Yeah, fuck it."
No, because that's the general, but it's like the shocked reaction is so similar to kind of what. So it's like it comes in stages, right? Where he admits that he's part of the corrupt system, which gets people very excited because, and this is why this movie is so genius, because we had never had a political figure like Trump in the sense of admitting that they are themselves part of the corrupt system. To say that the
Mhm.
system is corrupt and to then say I am also part of it, it's like this like wink. It's like this thing where people were so fed up with fake politicians that say slogans and like they're robots, right? Which is kind of
Yeah.
what they play on in him saying that same, we're at the beginning of a new millennium line is when a politician says anything other than like a robotic thing, they become amazingly popular, even if they're admitting that they've done bad things. So then I think he follows the black church and then he ends up at like a meeting with like the elites of Hollywood or something.
Yes.
And he starts saying that all their movies are bad. And then he goes like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of Jews in this room, right? Like all the big Jews are
Yeah.
here. And they like literally people like walk out. So the movie is very like direct as far as Bulworth saying very racially charged stuff at people that like he's trying to get like their vote. And obviously the moneyed class and then the insurance guy Paul Sorvino are furious at him.
No, Paul Sorvino's face
Yeah.
is so funny when it's upset.
Yeah, he's
He's just looking
immediately
at him
like,
like because his face is kind of fat. I mean, let's just like, and his eyes are like, or his freaking eyelids are like, gravity is taking over and they're falling to the ground, and he just looks so like,
yeah.
what?
He's definitely very cartoonish in this
Yeah,
one.
and like it's
But
almost like it's like when Warren Beatty goes off on these, whatever, he gets kind of like, it's almost like he gets high from it.
right.
Like
Well, because
it's
that's the direction it goes. So it's clearly from his anger is definitely, you can feel that he actually does care, even though he's being very cynical early in the movie and just like trolling essentially.
yeah,
As the film goes on, he'll start by admitting like that he's part of the corrupt system and all this stuff. And then he'll start saying what the real problems are. He starts actually kind of like saying
mm,
what the issue is, and then he'll be like on TV getting interviewed, and he'll just kind of be like looking through the interviewer, being like, "Yeah, your boss is telling you how to react right now." Like it's just like his entire mental breakdown is just holding up like a mirror to like the fakery of the incoming 21st century world, and 21st, basically the
yeah.
end of the 20th century America and all these inconsistencies and stuff. But no, when he starts rapping, he basically
I'm wondering when I looked at the fucking the movie poster, why this, I didn't know it was him till obviously I watched the movie, like coming out of the politician's mouth.
uh,
He's got like the shades and like a beanie.
right, which is that's where you get a little bit further on, but essentially when he was at the black church, got these three black chicks that like were pumped on what he was saying because they thought it was, I think they thought it was hilarious, but they were also just energized by him just speaking the truth in a way that no politician ever had. So
Yeah.
he becomes buddies with them, and they all end up going to like like a black like club where people are like rapping and like and there's like DJs and stuff and everyone's like openly doing drugs and
Oh,
he
and
just
on top of this, he hasn't slept in like maybe 5 days or something.
right. So that's the other big plot point is that he puts this hit out on himself when he like hadn't had anything to eat and hadn't slept in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, he's asking him like, "Are you eating?" He's like, "I'm not hungry, thanks so." He's like, "No, are
Yeah.
you eating?" He's like, "Not hungry. I'm not hungry."
No, so he's in bad shape when he starts to like have his mental breakdown. But he goes to this club, and when he's at the club, he he just starts rapping. he just starts
Oh,
rhyming.
that's why it like reminded me of a musical. When he's like, "Nina, Nina, I'm over here." He's just like he's rapping like, "Where is she? Where is Nina?" He's just like poking in rooms and stuff. Nina is Halle Berry's character, right?
Yeah, and then Halle Berry's in this movie too.
It's Nina, right? Or Mia? Fuck, I don't.
Some shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like smoking pot and
Yeah,
dancing with
Nina.
people. And they call him Clint Eastwood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they like think he's an actor or something. Or no, George Hamilton is what they call him.
No, because that's a lot of the film is this guy who's like what he's the he's this a senator, a literal senator, just hanging out with people you would never think he'd be hanging out with. So he's like fucking just walks up to this like shredded black dude in a tank top, and then the guy just like hands him over like a blunt. And so he's just hitting this blunt, and his assistants are like, "Sir, Mr. Bulworth, sir, I don't think you should be smoking marijuana, sir."
And he's kind of just laughing like, "Yeah, I'm smoking pot. Isn't that crazy?"
Yeah, and then his assistants start doing like coke and stuff, and so you could see this movie is
That was the fucking.
it's a wild movie. It's and the pacing of it is it's definitely very fast paced. The one of the other gags that's really funny is that because he's putting a hit out on himself, he like always gets really scared of like loud noises. So the
Oh,
whole
the
movie,
guy on the motorcycle, and he's like ducking, and because it sounds
yeah.
like kind of a gunshot, maybe.
So yeah, when like a motorcycle passes, he'll like dive on the ground or something, or when he's in the airport, he just starts running like the second he gets off the plane, and you get this crazy. There are a couple of those shots, like this steady cam kind of shot from the front, where Warren Beatty will just start jogging fast, and all of his assistants will be like kind of following him mid stride, like also running. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of him running from place to place. And when he's at the club, he's like dancing a shit ton. And oh my god, this freaked the fuck out. My TV just like delayed. Like that's so weird. My TV just said some like shit where it's like paired to like a phone or something. I'm
The
like, oh no.
Chicago Cubs are currently down 3 runs in the top of the fifth.
Oh my god. If I had like an AI assistant thing telling me like the horrors of the world, that would just be so brutal. But no, I mean, it's hard to really give a description of this movie because this movie sounds like kind of bad.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's such a great point. Like, yeah, without the context of watching the movie, I like even just reading the plot synopsis on IMDb being like very broad. I was like, what the fuck?
yeah, because a lot of it is just like if you're really like down for like kind of like a really funny movie, you'll have a good time, and then it comes in through kind of like the back door to being like a very sophisticated, uh, you know, political satire. Because yeah, I mean, and then essentially, I don't even know if this is a spoiler, but this comes up fairly. I mean, I feel like it doesn't come up like super late in the movie. But it turns out that Halle Berry, because you think, okay, like, and that's one of the questions that I was thinking the first time I saw this, being like, okay, why does Halle Berry have any interest in a
Yeah.
senator that's like in his like 50s or something, or
Right.
like or 60s. Who even knows how old the characters are supposed to be? And then it's revealed that she's like an assassin that was like sent to kill
Yeah,
him.
she knows the one guy who he can't he tries to call off the hit on himself.
Yeah,
But
well, it kind of evolves because he's kind of like just losing his mind, going to all these events and burning out, or he'll just ditch events. Like he'll just like ditch an event, get like take the limo. But it makes a little bit more sense when you figure out that she's actually an assassin. So it's like, oh, okay, that's why she like is like following him around. But there's a scene where like they almost have like kind of like a love scene off into the side. Well, they dance like the whole night at like the club, so they connect in that way. And there's like hilarious footage of Warren Beatty dancing and Halle Berry dancing, you know. But when they're alone together later, he's like asking her all these like questions, and she has and again kind of similar to Reds, right? Like I was saying with Diane Keaton, there's this scene where Halle Berry says why she thinks America is like fucked. And
yeah.
she kind of goes on this rant where she says that a lot of this is because the manufacturing base has been sold out, you know. And I think he
Mm.
even says that at one point in one of his wild speeches where he says, like, I've sold myself out to the Chinese, like, also, or like the politicians have sold you out to the like they say a lot of shit in this movie that is just true. I mean, like the manufacturing jobs like all went to China. Like that is true. And like for a film in the 90s to kind of just like deal
Yeah.
with that with these two characters in the middle of this like insane comedy, it's kind of surreal because then he later on takes like kind of what she told him and he says it on TV. He like goes like, yeah, but obviously it's even more crazy than what I'm saying. When he shows up on TV, he's like rapping. And then after he's
Yeah,
done
he doesn't
rapping,
he doesn't even like yeah. He doesn't even like he just starts out like saying crazy shit like we've been saying, and then it just gets more and more like musical.
yeah, he's like compulsively rhyming.
But like it gets more like grounded in some sort of maybe not like a political message, but like some sort of I don't know. I felt like he was the more like he is moving and singing and rapping, he's kind of like becoming more and more like I guess just like optimistic, or not optimistic, but like seems a lot more how do I say it? He seems a lot more
I feel like he gets more passionate the more
yeah,
he like,
yeah.
because then there's that part where so he stays up all night at the club and his assistant, I forget the actor's name, but he's like super recognizable, like one of his main assistants. And he's like saying to the other assistant, he's like, okay, I think he got it out of his system. I think he's just gonna show up at this fundraiser and like give a normal speech. And then he shows up and immediately starts rapping, and like the all the black chicks that he's been hanging out with start dancing around him, and everyone's like, what's going on? And then in that sequence, to connecting to what you were just saying, he has this hilarious, one of the funnier, I don't even know if it was funny, but I feel like one of the breakthrough moments as far as like the political frustration, like the fuck you kind of tone that Bulworth has for the political establishment, the donor class,
Mm-hmm.
even, I mean, obviously a little bit the voters, but he definitely has a lot of resentment, that character, for the donor class. He's rapping at this like at this like thing, and he just goes socialism.
Oh yeah.
He says like something about needing, like, does he say we need universal health care? What did he say before that? He says something like people need like this, or I'm blanking on what he says right before that, but he says something that's like very like maybe the most left leaning thing he said the whole time. And then
Mm-hmm.
he's like, we need to like say, I think he goes like, we need to say a dirty word. that you're not allowed to say, and then he just screams socialism. And it's like, but in that moment, I feel like the movie is at its most, I don't want to say concise, because I don't think, again, I mean, he literally was in a movie about a legendary Marxist. So it seems pretty clear that Warren Beatty has like a very, very left leaning political stance as far as like as a person, as like an author. But I don't
Right.
think Bulworth is necessarily saying that's the answer. I think he's more saying like in that moment that frustration is Warren Beatty, but also the character kind of being like even the establishment Democrats are so scared of this like idea that they're not willing to do certain things that would be very politically popular. And again, like we're talking about with the 90s, I mean, one of the controversies I mean, there's a lot of controversies with Bill Clinton nowadays, especially as far as what people actually know about him that they didn't know at the time. And there's a lot of spin, he was part of Iran Contra, pardoned his brother for drug trafficking. I mean, he was 100% complicit in letting all these drugs go through Arkansas in the 80s. So Clinton was clearly part of the uniparty of sorts even before he became the president. And when he became the president, as it's depicted in the Adam Curtis film All Watched Over by Machines of Love and Grace, Alan
Oh.
Greenspan comes to him in the beginning of that movie and he says, we need to cut government spending or else we're going to have economic problems. So Bill Clinton comes in, and instead of doing all these social programs he wanted to do, he actually just is like a Republican in terms of his economic policy. And then later, with the Lewinsky scandal, which was really later, he just became a fully lame duck president.
Yeah, I think
And
the Linsky scandal was the same year this movie came out.
yeah, and he was just because again, Alan Greenspan, before all this like Trump shit, Bush was a very hated president, W. Bush. And
Yeah.
Alan Greenspan was the guy who they were acting like had all these like brilliant answers to like the economy and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure he's smart, but All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace, one of the major plot lines is that Alan Greenspan was like an acolyte of Ayn Rand when she was writing her books. He would literally show up and like he was like friends with her, and they would have like a circle of friends that she would read like the early drafts of her work to. And of course, Ayn Rand is one of the ultimate like kind of Silicon Valley capitalist supervillains of the 20th century. And I've never read any of her books. I've heard she's awful, but I think she's still like, not an idiot, but like she has a very like pernicious, like a very she has a very very sharp like I don't even want to say the word sharp. Like she very capitalist like mentality, right? Like the strong will survive, and it's like even further than like I think what Nietzsche was like saying, because I don't feel like Nietzsche's like talking about like capitalism the way that like Ayn Rand is. So point I'm making is Alan Greenspan's bright idea about the economy is just radical free market capitalism, which is what led to the 2008 financial crisis. And Adam Curtis features that in All Watched Over by Machines of Love and Grace because, of course, this guy ends up going from working in the Clinton administration all the way up until W. Bush. And in the late 90s, when the Lewinsky scandal was happening, it wasn't Greenspan. I think it was a guy named like Rubin or something. Maybe it was I forget the name. But Clinton literally, there was like a little mini, that sounds condescending, but there was like a major economic disaster in Asia, in all the Asian countries, like in South Korea, and I think they said maybe like in Indonesia or something. And this is all in the Curtis. And Clinton like hardly even knew it was happening because our posture was so radically free market capitalism that all these investors went in to like South Korea, places like that, and they bought up all this like they bought up all this, or I think developers went in and they developed all this like office space, and then the American companies that said they were going to invest decided not to, and then it just sent like South Korea, and it just decimated like all these countries, and Clinton like barely had any idea it was happening. So that kind of just illustrates how hands off Clinton was. I mean, people kind of to this day will talk about the crime bill, which some people will say, I don't know too much about that, but I've heard like Joe Biden had something to do with that. And so Clinton has a very like Clinton was a likable guy, like black people liked him at the time. But I think Bulworth, there is definitely a very pointed frustration with the policies of Clinton. And you know, in the movie, they'll say Bush, they'll say Clinton. Like, it really reminds you how dominant those two names were for so long that, you know, then in a political satire in 1998, they bring up Bush and Clinton because it was just, you know, even though W. Bush was kind of getting more known by 1998, he wasn't as known as his dad still. And I think the belief was still that the HW goons would be able to like, you know, get back to power. So of course Warren Beatty, you know, he, as a filmmaker, but also as like just a thinker, he never obviously would have wanted Bulworth to become the president. And I feel like Trump is still he's still like the right wing version. Like I think Bulworth, he doesn't exactly say that he's socialist like we're saying. He's just kind of like an establishment Democrat that decides to burn the whole thing down. But Trump really is like kind of like the right wing version of that guy as far as, you know, airing his frustration with the system, but then leaning in a different direction than like at least how Bulworth would have addressed like the problems or something. But no, again, that's what's so funny about the movie is that I think he's like running for office. He wins, and then he gets written in for like 10% of like the presidential vote or something.
Yeah, he gets a fucking like, and he is not really in love with his wife.
Oh yeah, no, he doesn't care. You see his wife early on, and then you see that she's like cheating on him like randomly.
But I mean, that kind of reminded me a little bit of Trump because it's like all those like meme clips of Melania just being like smiling, and then it's like, all right, next thing, fuck that, move on.
Isn't there? I just remembered another line that he said. There's so many great lines in this movie. Doesn't he say at one point? I think he's having the debate. He goes up to have a debate with a couple other candidates or like one other candidate. And he's like, this is just a bunch of rich people asking some other rich people what their opinion on like the economy is or something.
Yes.
That was also hilarious.
And the guy he's running against just kind of like laughs.
Yeah.
And I think wasn't the guy that he ran against? Isn't he actually like sleeping with his wife, Bulworth's wife?
Oh shit! Is that true?
I think there's a scene in the movie when like his wife is like fucking the fucking Republican nominee for the Senate race.
Oh my god!
I could be wrong, but I think that's like a thing.
That sounds correct. I like didn't even realize that. I'm not visualizing who she's in bed with, but that's so funny. Oh my god.
Wait. No, he told it. Yeah, yes, because I like pulling the movie up when we do the podcast because I don't have sound on it. So it's literally the fucking quotes and it just says socialism, all caps with fucking 3 exclamation points while she is banging his the adversary.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I was thinking of the line when he's rapping and he's like,
that's the thing about this movie is like it's genuinely hard to pick up on all these details. Like just even talking about it, there's stuff that I've missed. I like had no
Yeah.
idea.
He it's when he's rapping and he's telling like the woman interviewing him like, you should cut to commercial, cut to commercial, cut to commercial. And
Yeah,
he says like, we gotta take like all the colors of different races of people out, and he said we gotta all fuck each other till we're just one color.
Wait, Bulworth said that?
Yeah, he said we gotta all keep fucking each other till there's only one color.
Oh my god.
And it's cutting to like some of the black families watching it and being like, damn.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's like,
that's
blow it
so
up.
nuts.
We gotta keep fucking each other until there's one color. Which is like, I don't know. That is like a little bit of part of this movie, is that like it is absurd, it's funny, but there's like kind of like shades of beauty about it.
Right.
You know?
Well, because there's a lot of like this kind of like 90s like rap like soundtrack type vibe. Like they have the one song where it's like insane. It's like insane in the membrane. Is like the hook. Yeah, that song plays a shit ton. So it's a
It
pretty
keeps
good,
like coming back like a freaking punt or like a knife, you know? It's just like it'll, because that is a big portion of this movie, is kind of like quiet moments and then like big like jumping hip hop music,
right.
or like he, you know, he's he's fucking dancing and he's rapping, and then it's just kind of like yeah, and then eventually he sleeps,
Right.
which is
'cause
like
it's
an
basically
amazing bit, because you think that he's like about to fuck Halle Berry,
Yeah.
and then like now that he knows, because she kind of like reveals to him like, yeah, I was supposed to like kill you, but I'm not going to.
Oh, you know what I just remembered?
What's up?
I remembered the reason he starts rapping. Doesn't the homeless guy tell him to like
You gotta sing, Bulworth. Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
There's like a homeless guy that's like around during the like some of the scenes in the movie, and he says you gotta sing is what he said, right?
You gotta be a spirit.
Well, yeah, I think he says that at a certain point too, but is that the only thing he says? Or I think he might have said like you have to sing or like you have to like rap.
Something like that. Damn. No, yeah, because he's at the church, right?
Yeah, I think he sees him at the church, and I think he sees him when he's going into the club too.
Damn, that's so, yeah. Oh, here it is. You got to sing, fool.
Yeah,
don't be no ghost. You gotta sing.
Yeah, that homeless guy is very interesting because he comes up later. But yeah, so the homeless guy is what really inspires it. Is he goes into this club and then he's like, okay, I'm just gonna start rapping like I'm a black person. And
yeah.
So eventually he's going to certain events. And again, the thing that's so funny about this movie is it's kind of like he's so like you can't look away from it. And the fact that is so politically popular to say that our system is corrupt is one thing. But a lot of it, what Bulworth also talks, like really touches on, and it's also kind of connected because the other thing, another layer that I forgot to mention is that right when he gets off the plane to like finish up his campaign, and right when he gets into his limo off this plane in the very beginning of the movie, he realizes that his assistants had hired like a camera crew from C-SPAN to follow him around.
Yeah, so they're just like Sean Astin.
So on top of all this shit happening where he's like rapping and having a mental breakdown, there's always a guy with a camera like in his face. So it really feeds into this idea that because it's that the TV cameras are almost demanding greater spectacle. But it's also that our era, the era that we're going to be in post Clinton, which is, it didn't end up happening for a while. I mean, Bush and Obama were still very, 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 very moderate within like what you can and cannot say. Like there are funny things Bush has said. Bush would say funny things, but he wasn't like a trend. He wasn't like a disruptor the way that like Trump is. And Trump is very much a disruptor that
Do you remember
is
when
hard
Obama
to
called Kanye West a jackass?
know.
Yeah, it was like when he did the Taylor Swift won the VMA thing, and he's like, "I'm gonna let you finish," but Beyonce had one of the best albums of all time.
Right.
And they were like interviewing Obama about it. He's like, "She's a nice lady, get her award. He's a jackass." And then they're like
Oh my
laughing
God, I didn't know
uncomfortably. He's
that.
like, "President could say stuff like that too."
That's wild. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was like 2011, 2010.
God damn. No, because it really puts
I
in perspective.
remember that like being like, "Holy shit!" And obviously, you know, Trump literally was just like, "Iran and Israel have no idea what the fuck they're doing."
Oh well, yeah, that's a recent one. That's not even like the very beginning of all the Trumpisms. It was just like, again, it's like the TV cameras just couldn't look away. You know, but you know, it's this thing where
It's riveting.
politicians. Yeah, and it's like it's performance. It's like reality TV, you know. And Trump is like from this world of reality TV, and you know he got roasted on Comedy Central, and he kind of just was prepared to be the funniest guy around a bunch of lizard nerds. So he goes up and is like roasting Jeb Bush. It's like, I mean, how hard do you think it is to fucking like you know, give Jeb Bush a wedgie? You know, it's like the most one-sided thing like ever. And
I love that.
yeah, I mean, Bulworth really has that energy in this movie. And again, the movie isn't exactly like a one-to-one prediction of Trump, but it's just very compelling the way that Bulworth also does so well in the polls. Like, it's kind of like insane.
Yeah, it doesn't really like it. It's done in a way that doesn't seem convenient or like spectacular.
Well, the other thing is too, even before Trump, there have been elected officials who their district just loves them, or you know, like the mayor of Toronto. Like, didn't he win like multiple elections or some shit back
Yeah,
in the
no, I
day?
mean senators stay in there for. Also, this is like, isn't this in California? So like,
Yeah,
it's very reasonable that like a Democrat in the '90s is winning the Senate race in California.
yeah, exactly. And then it also kind of makes sense within the plot that you know, he would feel like he would have such a breakdown that it would like help him, but also it's like this idea that like there's no way he's ever gonna lose. Like what he says to the black church, like, you're not gonna vote Republican. Like,
What, you going to
it's
vote
like,
Republican?
which is again another kind of Trumpism when he said like, he's like, I could shoot someone in the center of in the center of the street and not lose a voter. Like that
Middle
whole
of
thing.
Fifth Avenue, yeah.
Middle of Fifth Avenue. I
Shoot
could
somebody,
shoot
and I would
someone.
lose no voters. And it's
So
like, yeah, it's true.
it's crazy. Like, there are just a lot of Trumpisms that kind of came up in the era of Trump that are in Bulworth. But so I think so he kind of burns out. The Bulworth character is like going to events and burning out and having more and more outrageous like things happen. And then he thinks that the assassin is trying to kill him, and he eventually
The
tells
assassin like always like the assassin can't go into the fucking club, or like they're
yeah, it's
always
something.
just out of reach or something. And then
Well,
like
what he figures out is that Halle Berry is one of them.
right.
But she was gonna lure him somewhere so that he like accidentally fell.
Oh
or
yeah, they're
something.
supposed to. It's like a balcony, and he like loosens the
Yeah,
thing,
but
and he's supposed to fall off.
because then she wants to go back to the hotel room, and they don't go back to the hotel room. They just like leave.
Okay.
And then the guy who he has do the hit on him has a heart attack. Like when he's trying to call it off.
Funny. It's so
Which is-
funny. It shouldn't be funny
Yeah.
because it shouldn't be funny, but he's kind of like, kind of, and isn't his secretary like, are you okay? He's got like a cute young secretary, and she's like,
No, yeah,
I think so.
he almost died. Like the guy who's like putting the hit out or like helping him kill him, like fucking almost dies, and then So then the hit is still going through, and then eventually Halle Berry is like, "I was gonna kill you, but I've like decided not to," or something. I forget what her reasons are. Does she say like I'm in love with you, or what does she say? Like why did she
Oh,
decide not
God.
to? I think maybe she was like, "Oh, he's calling it off," and maybe she was just like, "Oh, okay, I'll just call it off then, since he doesn't want
I
to."
mean, they do end up kissing.
Well, yeah. So he ends up at her place, and at a certain point, I think it was the last TV. So he has a TV appearance where he had stayed at her place, and I think he gets his suit all wet, so then he gets given like clothes, so that he's dressing like a black dude. And so then he shows up to one of the TV appearances like that, and that's when he goes on a more pointed like rant about like kind of what we were saying earlier, like the manufacturing base, like having left America and
Yeah.
having specifically hurt African Americans, is like what Halle Berry tells him. And then I think one of the assassins tries to like drop like a heavy thing on him. It doesn't work. He gets away, and then at a
It's
certain
just-
point, again realizes that he's not going to be killed, and that's when he falls asleep, like near the end of the movie.
yeah, no,
And
yeah,
he
he, so
falls
he
asleep
tells
for
her,
like,
like, listen, I got, like, this, like, a hit out of, he just kind of, like, comes clean with, like, why he's being, like, very elusive.
yeah,
And he's like, so moral of the story is, he goes, you don't make life or death decisions when you're feeling suicidal.
yeah, he's saying it very earnestly too, which I Warren Beatty, it's interesting too, because in this movie and then in Reds, there's like this easiness, the way that he delivers his lines. He like does that in both movies, and it's very conversational. Like there's a lot of walking and talking, like in Reds. There's a lot of, and there's like a casualness to it too, which I think I really I enjoy about his directing style.
Mm.
And I like how he like says that line in that thing. He's like, yeah, well, you should never make hasty decisions when you're when you're feeling suicidal. Like he says it like it's really funny, and then he just passes out, and he wakes up and he's doing insane in the polls. And yeah, I mean, I don't even remember if we like forgot anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, the ending itself is worth like asking a couple questions about, because it's kind of nuts. But I don't know
Yeah,
if there was
it's
anything
like,
else I
it's
forgot.
very, I mean, Larry King's in it.
Oh yeah, he wants to
He's
get
like,
on
gotta have
Larry
this guy on
King.
the show. I gotta have this guy. I don't know how Larry King fucking, I don't, his fucking voice or something. I don't.
No, yeah, Larry King wants him on the show and everything. And I think he's like, I'm talking to Clinton tomorrow. I think he's like what he says to. It's like, I'm talking to Clinton. He's like, what about Friday? Can Bulworth talk to you on Friday? And he's like, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Oh, Don
Um,
Cheadle.
yeah, well, yeah, in terms of actors in the movie, yeah, Don Cheadle is like a drug dealer guy that like kind of runs the club, and he wants to beat up Halle Berry's brother, who kind of doesn't like he doesn't like that Bulworth is like he says it at one point when Bulworth is talking to Halle Berry, the guy is like, quit macking on my sister, bro. And then Warren Beatty is like, oh, what does Mac mean? Does anyone know what that means? He's just asking a bunch of white people in the limo, and is like, and I'm sitting here like in my apartment watching this, and I'm like, I've never heard anyone say Mac before, like in that context.
Oh, really?
So even I'm like, what was that? What did that mean
Yeah,
exactly?
I've heard Mackin a few times.
So what does that mean? It means trying to get with your sister?
Yeah, kind of, just like sweet talking,
Oh, okay.
Flirting.
Is that like a do people still say that, or was that like something that you hear in like 90s movies or
I don't know. I
something?
heard it. My friends used to use that in high school a lot. They'd be like, "Oh, you're macking up on that chick, dude."
Oh, wow. Okay, so it could be a white thing too.
Well, I don't know that, but I'm just saying.
Well, maybe it got to white people by the time you heard about it.
Yeah, we. I don't know. Yeah.
But no, I mean,
Oh,
the movie
there's like a
ends.
brilliant scene where like the other assistant is like trying to get some of the cocaine out of like the little spoon thing that they put in their nose.
Yeah.
He's like trying to like have some of the cocaine. The other guy's just kind of hogging it.
Yeah, that
That's a
assistant's doing
beautiful
coke
bit.
makes a lot of sense.
And yeah, Bulworth just kind of like sleeps for what, like fucking days. Once
Yeah,
he
for like a
finally
day or
passes
two.
out, and
then all the there's a bunch of helicopters and news crews just outside this black family's house, like in the ghetto, and they're they're like they're like, we're on the TV, like they're watching the TV as like the camera's on their front door. And then he wakes up and walks out in a suit and has another like incredibly intimate moment in front of all these cameras where he's basically telling Halle Berry like that he's like in love with her. I think he like asks her to come with him in the limo, and she like doesn't come through at first, and he's like, you made me feel insecure for a minute there.
yeah, they have like a couples argument, not like a argument, but like a little picky thing. Like, hey,
Yeah.
come on, what are we doing? And then he's like, I'm not gonna say it obviously, but he's like, I'm white. Like I'm not, he's kind of like, I'm not cool. And she's like, you're my,
I forgot she said.
It's like the most absurd thing in the movie. It's like, what the, and it's like the climax of the fucking movie.
It's so insanely funny to be describing this movie. It's just like, I don't know. I get it. Like I get that people are just very uptight about like race in general, but
Right.
I think it's hilarious, but also truthful when a movie from the 90s that is also, in fairness, the white people definitely come across like in a very kind of dweeby,
Yeah.
archetypical way, stereotypical way in a lot of ways. Like the politician, the assistants, they're so unaware of black culture that it's like awkward. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the movie is totally out of touch like on all sides. I feel like the movie is pretty fair as far as being satire. But yeah, I could see how someone would see this and like be like not not liking the depiction of black people in the movie and like some of the things that are
Sure.
said. Um I still think it comes across as satire, and I also think it's just, I don't know, I appreciate a movie that is willing to deal with race in a very direct way when we live in an era where people like kind of just are very like very cautious about like what they say and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know, I feel like the movie still does kind of have a pretty fair and honest vibe, even though it is super surreal and it is satirical, which again is the other thing. Is I think some of the characters are supposed to kind of be, larger than life to kind of play on these different things. But yeah, no, and then he gets gunned down. End of the movie, gets shot by an assassin, and I don't think you see who it even is.
No, they're like, it's like it reminded me of like the idea of the grassy knoll. People are like,
No, literally.
they're like asking people like where'd it come from, and they're like pointing in this direction. I'm like, I don't think that's like. Yeah, the one guy's taking pictures, but like I don't think he has a gun. And then Paul Sorvino is like walking around somewhere like on a rooftop, but I don't think he would. I don't know. He doesn't strike like being the
Right.
executive guy that he would pull a trigger or anything. But
Yeah, no, it's like a thing where they're surrounded by all these people. It's like a massive crowd. They have this counterpoint, very soft moment of like not even bickering, but like just being in love. Like, and you think the movie's gonna ride off into the sunset. It's the middle of night. It's in a bad neighborhood, so it's like concrete and graffiti everywhere, and there's like a spotlight coming down from like a plane. And as they're walking in the car, Warren Beatty just gets gunned down, and he gets gunned down and no one knows where it came from. And then the ending after that, so that's like, oh shit, he just got killed. They don't even know who shot him. And then it's like this like transition into the homeless guy like on the street like telling him to be like a spirit or something, right? Is what he says in the very, very
He said,
last scene.
"We don't need no ghost. You got to be a spirit. You got to be a spirit."
Yeah, it's a crazy like haunting ending to a very like outlandish, outrageous
Yeah.
comedy. Like it's such an insanely wild counterpoint ending. So the whole movie is just it's hard to explain and it sounds bad, but the fact that it ends like that and the fact that
Yeah.
it's so funny and then it ends up like the parody of it ends up kind of coming true in the era of Trump as far as politicians that will break the third the fourth wall and politicians who will admit that the system itself because that's an admission in itself. Like we really haven't. I mean, again, I could be wrong in terms of speeches from politicians here or there, but in the post World War II era, I mean, I don't think we've had a president that has really used the term like corruption, like openly been like the system is corrupt. And again, Trump is corrupt. That's also true. He's committed crimes. I mean, I think he probably killed Epstein in jail. So I'm not here to say that the president is a moral figure or that the president first of all, the president has never been a moral figure. The president has always been the person that becomes the president has to be so ruthless and such a like and also in fairness, a lot of the people that become the president other powerful people have dirt on them. So they're easier to manipulate. So they get pushed forward. And that's happened before. And there's been combinations of that kind of thing that has happened before. But the only point I'm making is that because Trump admits that he was part of the corrupt system and that the system itself is corrupt, it gives him this extra like bulletproof like vibe in the media, I feel like, but also just with the common person because he's very upfront about so many aspects of his life, not even saying he really is. Obviously, some of this is just some of this is like a lot of it is like just projection as far as Trump trying to like kind of push what he like wants the nation to be or what his values are. It's
Mm.
not like he's saying every single day I'm a flawed person. Obviously, that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying he is like you gotta look at the world as this dark thing and you gotta not be squeamish about it is kind of the tone is the way I would explain like why he's won multiple elections, you know. And I think that's refreshing for people, even though there are all these bad things that still happen. And with any presidential administration, and obviously plenty of like crimes and just hideous things. And like we're saying with like corruption, like admitting the corruption and then not really like doing anything about it. It can get you into office, but it doesn't really guarantee you're going to do shit, you know? But, yeah, it's very interesting thinking of Bulworth in the context of 21st century politics, just because, again, it really proves even in the 90s, there was just a hatred of establishment, boring politicians. Like people just you couldn't just keep giving people politicians that you just know are not themselves, right? Because
Mm.
again, Trump has secrets, Trump has done shit. Who even knows some of the shit we don't actually know for sure that he's done that he's done. I mean, there's plenty of stuff like on the books that you can look at. But it just proves like, yeah, there really was a distaste for the status quo that and again, a lot of people hate him, at least in like, the big cities and people love him like in other parts of the country and he does seem to be himself. He does seem to be not pretending to be Trump. Like I mean, there is some of that. Like I think there's a Trump like persona for sure, but people respond to that. There's there was this thing I heard post-election, and an analysis of what you really need to be to like become the president, or to be successful as a politician, because people don't vote for a cheat sheet of things that or policies they agree with, because the reality is human beings disagree in all these ways. People vote for people that are authentic. People vote for people that are not gonna put on a face and just kind of be an empty person, right? I mean, people have said this about Obama, where it's like, okay, because I think Obama might have like started a podcast at one point or something random, and I think maybe Tim Dillon said this, where it was like, nobody's gonna listen to that podcast, but if Obama like took the gloves off and if he like started telling things that like you never would expect him to say, if he starts saying like crazy shit, it would be like the most watched or most listened to podcast ever. But it's Obama, he's almost overly cognizant of the things he says, which
Yeah.
I think just doesn't fly in this era. Like, I still think Obama has a lot of, I think he still has, like, overall, people still like him a lot, but I feel like his style of politician is harder to like sell. And it's interesting with, like Zoran in New York. It is kind of close to Obama as far as like a guy that's just very kind of likable outwardly, and he's relatively young. And even though Zoran is basically a communist, I think there's a lot of people in New York that are not communists that just get a good vibe from him, and they appreciate that he isn't like necessarily like a totally normal, boring, something they've never seen before type of
Andrew Cuomo.
politician. Wait, what?
Andrew Cuomo.
Well, yeah, and then Cuomo is getting annihilated because he's just more of the same. A guy that's had so many failures, and then he's just running in like the most boring way. He's like a 60-year-old man running in the year 2025 that doesn't know like what it means to what it means to really connect with the young people of New York, who are all basically Marxist. But again, I think yeah, the young people in New York are definitely Marxist, but I think a huge amount of people that are going to end up voting Zoran in as the mayor aren't Marxists. And I really think, because Zoran, and I cut myself off, but the analysis I had heard about the why Trump has won another election, is the term that was used was divisive politics. Like that there is something attractive about, because it's not just being authentic, but it's also, and again, I guess these are kind of connected together, because you can be authentic and you can just have all the beliefs that people have, which again will never happen, but that can happen. Like, you could just like look at a politician and go, oh, he believes everything I believe, I'm going to vote for him, and he's authentic, I'm going to vote for him. But to really become like the president at this point, what Trump, or to become like the mayor of New York, because Zoran has definitely taken some aggressive positions in the left-leaning direction that in the past have turned off voters. But the fact that there is a divisiveness and it's also authentic, which is the key to Trump, it makes them kind of political superstars, because it's a little bit dangerous. Like, to be a politician, you can't just have a checklist of things that you believe that the voters want you to say, and then you say them because that's what you believe the voters want you to say. There's a lot of that. That is a lot of what being a politician is. But also, you got to have beliefs yourself. You have to like actually have consistent kinds of views, which at times can get you into hot water. Because again, I think a lot of like the response, a lot of the popularity of Trump is definitely a response to just how clamped down on speech I feel like America felt for like a lot of people. And it wasn't really like it wasn't like you go to prison if you said certain things, but it was definitely like kind of like you get ostracized, or in certain types of company, you can only have certain types of belief, and Trump kind of blew the lid off of that in the sense of, and the most specific example is this immigration thing. I'm pretty sure that when Obama won the election 2 times, the Republicans got together and they came up with what their takeaway was. And I forget where this came from, but I think this might have been like 2014, 2015. The word on the street from the Republicans was, we can't go as hard on immigration because Obama just got elected and he wasn't like a hardliner on immigration like at the time. And because of that, we need to move to the left to get all these votes from Obama. Like that was something that the
Yeah.
Republicans had considered. And here comes Trump, who is just flying in the face of that, the most inflammatory speaker about that particular issue in a country where it was basically politically incorrect to talk about immigration, especially to talk about immigration in a very aggressive and some would say racist, as far as certain like statements that Trump has made and other people has made over the years. But he won 2 elections. And I think part of that is the authenticity of it. I think another part of that is that issue itself is very key for people. Like I think it's like a political strategy type thing. Like it's an issue that's always going to be front and center, especially in a global world where there are more and more people who are refugees. There are more and more people that are flooding, fleeing their countries and going either to America or Europe. So it's an issue that's not going away. And so to run your campaign wholly on an issue that is basically becoming bigger and bigger, I think was another ingredient as far as this kind of 21st century politician. And again, it's divisive. I mean, half the country hates it. The other half loves it, what he says. But it's authentic and it's divisive. And I think if we're going to look at like 2028 or any election in the future, I feel like that's the reality.
God.
You can't just have like a paper mache candidate. You just can't have, Pete Buttigieg or whatever, like coming out and pretending like he's a gay guy. I mean, what's that all about? No, I'm sorry. That came out of left field. No, but he just said I just saw like a clip from that guy. But no, you're going to need, even if we get like if the Dems win the next election, if the Republicans, I mean, I honestly don't think that Vance or Rubio are going to at all speak to this kind of like Bulworth Trumpian energy. So it really remains to be seen, like if like just like a pure establishment, because that would be like pure Republican establishment, nothing unorthodox about them at all, like picks if they were the two guys running in 2028. And we're all trying to anticipate like a left-leaning Trump or something like which again would be like Bulworth. And I don't know if we're gonna get it. It's gonna be interesting to listen back to this podcast in 5 years and Barron has become the emperor or something and be like, oh shit, we didn't see that coming. But
Oh fuck.
oh shit, Barron, he just didn't stop growing and he just started taking over. He just became 200 feet tall. And
Why does my fucking cat hate me?
but yeah, I feel like we talked about everything with this movie. Now I'm just going on crazy rants.
Now, Bulworth, a movie that fucking really shouldn't work, but I don't know. I dig it.
Yeah, it's just honestly, it's just the counter. The thing that's the hardest to explain is the fact that so many different types of tones and so many ideas are in Bulworth, and it's so, again, divisive. I love movies like that. I love movies that are really, it gives you a lot to like work with. But I could see someone seeing this movie and like hating it, and I like wouldn't really have like an ability to totally combat them. I think Reds is like Reds is like objectively perfect, but I kind of prefer Bulworth just because it's so insane and it's so funny. But Reds is definitely if you watch Bulworth and you kind of love it, but you also kind of hate it. If you watch Reds, you will be in heaven from start to finish, guaranteed. I don't think it's possible to see Reds and dislike it. In my opinion,
what do you think about Reds for the podcast?
We could probably do that. I mean, we could probably do that at some point. I mean, I was thinking about watching it for this, but yeah, we could watch Reds as well and talk about it in the future. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I can end the recording now.
See you guys.
All right, peace.